Hello everyone, it's Karina with Karina Loves to Plan. Thank you for joining me in my little corner of the internet where we talk all things planners, fountain pens, and fountain pen inks. And today I thought I'd go over the pens I cannot live without. So these are 5 pens in my collection that I cannot live without. Now, I feel like there's a caveat to this. These are the 5 pens that I cannot live without as of today. So I am filming this on Monday, May 18th, and it is the year 2026. And if you ask me again, maybe a year from now, these pens could be absolutely different. So I feel like this video is relevant to today and could possibly change, and that's absolutely okay. So I'm going to list here 5 pens that I cannot live without with a couple of honorary mentions. And then let me know what you think down in the comments below. Or if you want, you can guess right now what these 5 pens are. And then we'll see if do you even need to watch? Yes, still, please watch the video. All right, let's get started. The first pen in my collection that I cannot live without is the Pilot Kakuno. This is in the Madarome. The first pen that I cannot live without is the Pilot Kakuno in the Madarome Pink. Now I know there's a different name for it, and actually I'm going to look through my pen catalog at the back here because I think I have it written down as the proper name of it, and I cannot remember the top of my head. So it's not Humus White, Nimbus Gray, Rosy Dusk. Now, I love all of my Pilot Kakunos, but if I had to pick out of the 5 that I currently have, I would choose the Rosy Dusk. This currently has a fine nib, but I love that I can change this out for an extra fine nib if needed. And then I would normally use a Pilot Con 70 converter in here, which I don't currently have, but I would use a Con 70 converter in here, or I would just syringe fill a cartridge and use that over and over again. One of the reasons that I love this pen is, one, it is relatively inexpensive compared to so many other pens that perform just as well. And for the Pilot Kakuno, this particular one, it does have the steel Pilot nib, which is a fantastic steel nib. And I purchased this off AliExpress a little over a year ago, and I purchased it for $33 Canadian. And then the other Pilot Kakunos in the Madarome series, I think I purchased 3 at $18 each. So at first very expensive for the Pilot Kakunos, but then the 3 that I purchased right after were at a much better price point. Now with these, they don't come with a converter, they do come with a cartridge which you can refill using a syringe. But one of the reasons why I love this particular pen is if you look at the nib here, look at the lovely cute little happy face here, but this nib is so unassuming, but it writes so beautifully. Now I don't have this one inked up, but I have its sibling. Which one is this one? Gosh, it's a good thing I write these down in my pen catalog, otherwise I would never remember the name of each of them. So this blue one is, I'm on the wrong page. I think this one is Twilight Periwinkle. And the way that this writes, they both have the same fine nib, but I'll show you how this writes here. So I'll zoom in. So here we go. The first pen of the pens I cannot live without is the Pilot Kakuno. And it will have a fine nib. Now, I love the Madarome series, but I do love Rosy Dusk, and it just writes so crisp and so smooth, and I cannot get over how beautiful this looks for the price point. I love that soft pastel pink, but it's just such a reliable, smooth writer. And if you are just starting off in this hobby, this is a great place to start. But even if you've been in this hobby for many years, the Pilot Kakuno is something that I love to go back to, especially at that price point. If I lose a Pilot Kakuno, I can easily buy another one, and at the price point that it's at, and still know that it's going to be very consistent writing experience. It's just such a great, consistent, reliable pen. So the first pen that I cannot live without, to the point that I have I cannot live without this pen, to the point that I have my 5. I've completed the Kakuno collection. Hold on. There we go. My 5 Kakunos all on the screen here. And that way I make sure I have one inked up every month because I love them so much. So the first pen I cannot live without is the Pilot Kakuno. The second pen I cannot live without why am I keep saying that I cannot live without is one that's very dear to my heart. It is my Leonardo Momento Zero Grande 2.0 in Winter Sunrise. This one really is due to the collaboration, and there's just such a sentimental feel to this one, but also I love the way this writes. The Momento Zero Grande 2.0 model is a piston fill, and it can come with either a steel Yovo nib or a 14K nib, or I know that there are some Momento Zero Grande 2.0s out there with a larger number 8, I believe it's a titanium nib, but I am a big fan of this. It's got a great piston filling system, so you can put a lot of ink in here, but also for me, it's such a comfortable writer. When I first tried the Momento Zero Grande 2.0 quite a few years ago with my angel skin, I was a little, I guess, intimidated by the size and felt it was a little bit too big for my hand. But now that I've grown accustomed to bigger pens and know that these are quite comfortable for me, it's a pen that I've surprisingly kept in my collection. But then for my Winter Sunrise, it was first released as a Momento Zero Grande model back in, I believe I'm looking back here now at all of my pens. Gosh, where was it? Oh, there we go. It was released in January of 2025, the Momento Zero Grande model, and then we re-released it in November of 2025 in the Momento Zero Grande 2.0 model. And this resin, I helped come up with the design and the colors, and Stormwind Blanks was able to produce this beautiful blank from my vision. So you've got pinks and browns with holographic and purple shimmers, and then the trim of this pen is rose gold, but you were also able to get it in gold. But I just love the classic look of this. I love the pinks and the browns, and it does have a matching Winter Sunrise ink from Tono and Lims as well. Now, I don't think there are any currently left at Endless Pens, but if you are interested in this, please add yourself to the wish list on Endless Pens site, and it may be something that we can restock in the future. So my second pen on my list here, I'm actually going to use my angel skin to write it with. So the second pen on my list is my Leonardo Momento Zero Grande 2.0. This has an extra fine nib, and it is my Winter Sunrise. Really, for this particular pen, it is about just the sentimentality of it. My creation with Hatch and Endless Pens and Leonardo and Stormwind Blanks, just for me was a huge, I guess, milestone in my fountain pen hobby, and it's a pen that I am very proud of. So my Momento Zero Grande 2.0 in Winter Sunrise. The next pen that I am mentioning as a pen that I cannot live without is actually a pen that I didn't own until this year. I had it a few years ago, didn't like it, sold it, and then as of this year purchased 3 of this particular brand of pen. It is the Platinum 3776, and I have 3 now, and I have this one. This is in the, oh my gosh, I'm going to get the name wrong here. It's the Fuji Unke, and this has a 14 karat extra fine nib, and to me it's just crazy that I even like this nib, but I love it. It wasn't a nib that I ever thought that I would enjoy, but I'm now going towards those finer nibs. And this was the, no, it wasn't this one, it was the first platinum that I guess that came back into my collection was the platinum and Hachimonjiya. This was the Hatsuyuki, and this one I purchased from Good Pen Life on Instagram. And this was basically a leap of faith purchase because I fell in love with the way that the body looks. I mean, look at the sparkles and the translucent pinky beige, and then the rose gold details and the nib. So beautiful. This one was definitely a leap of faith purchase, but I felt so strongly about how beautiful it looked that I thought, okay, I'm going to take a risk here and see if I like writing with that fine platinum nib. And then as soon as I started writing with it, I breathed a huge sigh of relief because I thought, oh my gosh, I actually love how smooth and crisp and fine this fine nib writes. So this time last year, I did not have any platinums, but I now have 3. Gosh, I feel like this is going to be a theme here. And I have the Platinum Kobayashi Surugabe. This has a 14 karat fine nib, and it's just stunning. And I was going back and forth between whether I should purchase Hatsuyuki or Surugabe, and then loved this so much that I decided to purchase Surugabe and absolutely loved it. And then when I was looking at PenChalet and I had credit that I wanted to use, this one was also on sale with an extra fine nib. And this one I wasn't sure if I would like, but then as soon as I inked it up and started writing with it, I was in love. So it's definitely shown how much my tastes have changed over the last couple of years and how fine I like to write. The Platinum 3776 with a fine or an extra fine nib is a pen that I cannot live without because of just how beautiful they are, but also that writing experience. That 14 karat nib, I love both the fine and the extra fine. Both are just fantastic to me. So which one do I have currently inked up? I have this one inked up. So the third pen that I currently cannot live without, so number 3, this is very light ink in here actually. I think the ink in here is overcast. So this is my Platinum 3776, and I'm gonna put a fine nib on this one. And out of the 3, it's hard to decide which one I absolutely cannot live without of, because why do I keep saying live without of? Whatever. Live without is, oh, which one? These are, it's so hard to choose which one I would want to live without, but these are the pens I cannot live without. So let's say, oh my gosh, I love them all. Karina, choose. Well, we'll do Surugabe. But I love these, love them all. And I do have my eye on Ayame. And if Ayame does come out again or is released again, I will probably purchase that in an extra fine if it does come in an extra fine, but it might be something that I'll have to wait for when it does come out, or if I ever go to Japan. So the third pen that I cannot live without is the Platinum 3776, to the point I now have 3 of them. The next pen that I cannot live without is a pen that I've had in my collection for a few years now, and this one was a grail pen of mine. It is the Pelikan, or the Pelikan M800, and this is in the brown black. I purchased this from eBay actually, and I originally got this with a fine nib, which is definitely too broad for me now, but I had this ground down into an extra fine cursive smooth italic, and it is glorious. I love this pen for so many reasons. One, it's just such a classic, beautiful looking pen. 2, it's brown. And 3, it's a piston fill pen, but it just feels so beautiful in the hand. It's very comfortable. I found the M600 and the M400 just too narrow and too light for my hand, to the point where I was just gripping it so tightly and my hand hurt at the end of the writing session, whereas the M800 is a perfect size, and because it is a little heavier as well on the inside, I believe the piston inside is brass, I think, or it's a heavier metal, and it adds that weight to the body of the pen. But then we have the 18 karat nib here, the two-tone nib. It's such a classic, beautiful looking nib that writes so smoothly and is very, very juicy. So out of all of the gold nibs that I currently own, this one is probably the juiciest and one that writes the broadest in terms of the general standardized sizes. But it's one of my favorite pens, and I cannot live without this one because it was a Grail purchase. This isn't one that is regularly available, but I love the brown, love the two-tone, and love how it writes. It's one of the pens that I don't think I'll ever let go of in my collection. But I also have the M800 in the green black. Now I have been tempted to get this or send this off to Bokamundo in Japan and see if they can add rod into this. I'm still on the fence about it because part of me loves the green, but the other part of me wants to make this pen just so different and so much more glamorous with all of that rod in. So I don't know, I'm still on the fence about it. I have until I guess July or August to think about it because I have my place in line. You do have to add your name to the list, and there's about a 10 to 12 month waiting list for Bokamundo. But I'm still on the fence as to whether I want to get this one Urushified or add rod into it or have a different pen. But anyway, these are my two Pelikan M800s, and I do love them. I did a years later review, I think last month, just talking about how comfortable this is in the hand, how beautiful it writes, and it's one of those pens that, while very expensive, it is a worthwhile investment for the M800. So I have neither of these inks, so I'm going to use here we go, I'll use my Angel Skin again to write number 4 in this list, and this list isn't in any particular order. This is my Pelikan M800, and the one that I have is in the extra fine cursive smooth italic, and it is in the brown, oh my gosh, black. Gorgeous. And such a classic looking pen, but also it's got, you know, some micro scratches on there from being used, and I don't mind that at all. I think it's just part and parcel of the use of the pen, and there's a little wear on some of the trim as well, but again, it's not a pen that I plan on selling. So anyway, my M800 in brown black. So before I get to the last pen that I cannot live without, I'm going to mention or write down 2 honorable mentions. The first honorable mention was part of my original 5 pens for life list from a couple of years ago. It is the Waterman Karen. It is a beautiful classic pen. It writes beautifully. I mean, I do have to say though that the nib is not exactly in line with the placement of the finial here, but that is because I switched this over with the nib or grip section from my Waterman Karen in the amber, and because I wanted the extra fine nib. This was originally a fine nib that I had ground down into an extra fine, but it's such a great classic writer. It's such a classic looking pen, and it wasn't ever a pen that I thought I would need in my collection, but my curiosity was sparked. I decided to give it a try, and it's one of the pens that is basically an underdog in my collection. I only have one of these now because I sold my amber. This is in the sea green shimmer, and it's just such a reliable classic writer, and I love the green finish of this pen. This has an 18 karat nib, and it fills with a converter, and it's just such a wonderful, classic, fantastic pen. So one of the honorable mentions in here, and I'm going to use my 2SB to write this. So the honorable mention is my Waterman Karen in sea green shimmer. And this one was one I also purchased off of eBay because when I saw that this color had even been produced, I thought I need to have it. And I actually bought this as a set. It came with a ballpoint or a roller ball as well. I haven't used that one, but it's just as stunning as this one. So one of the honorable mentions here is my Waterman Karen in sea green shimmer. The next honorable mention is one that I didn't think I would put on this list, but as soon as I tried it, I thought, I need a good number 8 nib in my pens I cannot live without, at least in the honorable mention, and it is the Asvine C80. I didn't think that I would like this pen as much as I do, but that number 8 nib is fantastic. I have this in an extra fine nib, and it has handled shimmers and inks like just so well. And I purchased this off of Amazon, and it was about $29 US, and it's got that steel number 8 nib. Where else can you find a number 8 size nib for $29? Amazing. And it comes in different resins as well. And this is a cartridge converter pen. I mean, look at the size of that converter. This is a bigger pen, definitely not for people who like the smaller pens, but I love this so much for the cost of this pen and for that amazing nib. It's such a great value. So my other honorable mention here is the Asvine C80. Ooh, wow, rolling away as I'm writing the name. Asvine C80, and this has an extra fine number 8 nib, and this is in the brown glitter. I'm a big fan of the Asvine C80, and just that nib, absolutely chef's kiss with that nib. It's smooth, handles shimmer well, and if you ever wanted to test out a number 8 nib, this is the pen to do it with. So my second honorable mention is the Asvine C80. And last but not least is a pen that, as of this time last year, I did not own any of this brand. And then by really last month, I now have 4 of this particular brand, and I cannot live without them. It is the Sailor Pro Gear, and this one is with Hachimonjiya, and it is the Kubo Zakura. Now, the collaborations with the Sailor Pro Gears, they don't come with the standard, I think, 21K nib. This is the 18 karat nib, and just look at the beautiful detail on that nib. I purchased this from the San Francisco Pen Show, and I had this tuned and smooth by Kirkspear, and this has a fine nib, but it's just a stunning piece of work for a pen. My first, I guess, foray back into the Sailor world was with the Wancher. Where is it here? The Wancher in the Frozen Sake. Gorgeous, gorgeous pen. It just kept calling out to me when I was at the Pacific Northwest Pen Show last July. I purchased this from Kirkspear at Pen Realm and loved the 18 karat fine nib and just loved the whole writing experience with this pen, to the point, yeah, that I ended up buying the Sailor Hachimonjiya, and then a few months later, I ended up buying another Sailor Hachimonjiya in the Geo Amethyst. And then as of last month, I bought the Sailor Pro Gear in Iris Nebula, and this has an extra fine nib. I never thought that I would like the fine or the extra fine nibs in Sailor or in Platinum. But especially for the Sailor, I blame you, Anne. And this one has a 21 karat extra fine nib, and it just writes beautifully. And I mean, this isn't normally my style, but just the price was right and it had the nib that I wanted. So what this to me is just very surprising that I have this many Sailor Pro Gears in my collection, whereas this time last year I did not. But this is now a pen that I cannot live without. So number, I guess, 5 in this spot, even though there's no order to these. The 5th pen that I cannot live without is the Sailor, and I'm just going to write Pro Gear, and it's going to be the Hachimonjiya that has the 18 karat fine nib, and it is in the Kubo Sakura, because it's just such a pretty, beautiful pen, and it writes so beautifully. I know I'm showing all of the pens that are in the Sailor Pro Gear, but honestly, if we took all of these away and I just had Kubo Sakura, So happy. Cannot live without that pen. So there are the pens that I currently cannot live without. And I love doing stuff like this because it also makes me reflect on my current collection and look at what I have and ask myself, how many of these would have fit into this category? And I know that when it comes to some exercises like these, when we have to pick and choose our, top 5 or whatever it is in our collection, some people can be like, no, I don't want to choose. It's just some arbitrary rule. And no, you don't have to do this. This is something that I thought I would do for fun. But it also helps me look at my collection overall and really reflect on everything that I own and whether or not the things that I own meet the criteria of I cannot live without this pen. I kept it to this number because otherwise, then if I said I can name all of them pens I cannot live without, then it feels like I'm just doing a fountain pen collection video. But the reasons I think that I cannot live without these pens are both sentimental as well as practicality. You've got both of those going for these pens, and there's also something different about each of these ones where I would be so sad if I lost these or broke these or sold them on. I would absolutely regret those. All right, but that is it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know down below. Let me know if you have a list like this of your top 5 pens or the 5 pens you cannot live without, and let me know in the comments. All right, thank you all so much for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button and to subscribe. And the next, I guess, iteration of this that I will do are maybe the top 5 or top 10 inks, the 10 inks I cannot live without. And that's going to be a harder one for me to do. All right, until next time, take care.